Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I'd like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is the fifth in a five-part series, specifically designed for new members or new users to BNI Connect to show them all the different aspects and all the different tools and functionality that's available here in BNI Connect. We started off the series with quite simply how to log in and fill out your profile and all the different places to fill that out and where it shows up and all the different websites that it's available on. Then we moved into the the online slips portion of it, where we talked about how to pass referrals, how to track your referrals online through BNI Connect, as well as the one-to-ones and the thank you for closed business slips. The third part had to do with the social media aspect of BNI Connect, or the networking functions in BNI Connect. How do we connect with other members? How do we give testimonials, things like that. And then yesterday, we talked about the tools and reports. We looked at some of the additional functionality of BNI Connect that's hidden a little bit beyond the home screen in some of the other menus and functions. Today, what we're going to talk about is visitors. And as we all know, visitors is the lifeblood to our chapters. Without visitors, our chapters can't grow. And we all want to grow so that we have more referral partners and more ways to grow our business. So visitors is a very important part of that. And as such, BNI Connect has a number of different ways that we can support the visitor process. Before we get into that, let me just a couple of very quick housekeeping things. This is a live webinar, so if you have any questions as we're going through the material today, please do feel free to ask those questions. I will be happy to answer those questions for you as we're going through. The second part is we are recording this. It will be made available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. It will also be on the support site, which you can access by clicking on the question mark in the upper right-hand corner of BNI Connect. We're scheduled for about 30 minutes. It's probably going to take about 25 to 30 minutes to go through the visitor process today. That being said, I am happy to answer all questions and stay on the line with you until every single question has been answered. So let's talk about visitors. From a BNI Connect perspective, there's a couple of different stages to the visitor process, three of them as far as the system is concerned. The first two parts of the process, so there's inviting visitors and then pre-registering visitors. Those two things happen before the chapter meeting. So before a meeting takes place, we're going to call up a visitor, we're going to send an email, we're going to invite them to come and visit our chapter, to attend one of our chapter meetings. Once they say, yes, we'd like to attend, well, what we want to do is we want to register them for the meeting. And this gives a ton of benefit. It makes it more official. It also sends them a reminder as well as a registration message. It also gives us as a chapter the ability to track that information better so we can see and be prepared for who is coming to the meeting. Then the meeting happens, and then there's a follow-up process as well, which has to do with marking the visitors, making sure that we're creating a visitor database for our chapters that we can always refer back to as well. That part happens after the meeting. So, by the way, this is part of a much bigger manual that I've put together in regards to the visitors in BNI Connect. If you would like a copy of this manual, please just shoot an email over to us, support@bniconnect.com, support@bniconnect.com. We will be happy to send you a copy of the manual in Word or PDF format so that you can review the entire process. Now, we're going to touch on most of it today, but there's a couple of little tidbits in there that you may find useful in the printed format. So let's take a look at how this actually works in BNI Connect. As I said, there's three different stages: inviting, pre-registering, and visitor follow-up. So let's take a look at this first part of it. And that is, how can we use BNI Connect to invite a visitor to your chapter meeting? Well, we do that first by logging into BNI Connect. So once you're logged into BNI Connect, some of these functions are in that scary place that's beyond the home screen here. The home screen is where we do all of our main functions like inputting thank you for closed business and referral slips, but we need to go a little bit deeper than that for the visitor invitation. To do that, we need to access the menus up here along the top. Now, a lot of people say, well, I'm not really sure where to find that. The main places you're going to go to, there's three things at the top: network, operations, and reports. Network is going to be the social media stuff when you're interacting with your network. So the ability to find people and access your connections database and your testimonials, things like that. Operations is really the day-to-day operations of your chapter, so the tools that you'll use when working with your chapter. This is where we're going to find the visitor invitation. Reports, on the other hand, are always going to be read-only. So if you're looking to do something, you're looking to create something, you're looking to send out this invitation, the place we're going to go to is operations. So if we go to operations, the very first thing on here is manage visitors, and then we have meeting management, manage goals, things like that. Now, if we want to send out an email invitation, the place we're going to go to is create email, and we'll see three different options here. We have email my chapter, email visitor invitation, and email chapter visitors. Email chapter just gives you a distribution list for your personal chapter if you'd like to send out emails to your chapter. But what we want to do here is the visitor invitation. Now, the reason I find this extremely helpful is what we're going to be doing is putting just a little bit of information in, and it's going to then insert this into a template that sends an invitation out to a visitor. The nice thing about it is that it is formatted and worded for you so that you don't really have to think about what to say necessarily. That's one of the things that I've always struggled with personally when inviting visitors is, you don't really know what to say to them. Oh yeah, come to my meeting, and it's a weekly meeting, and it's, we're going to pass a ton of referrals, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and visitors tend to get overwhelmed when we start over-explaining BNI. So this kind of puts it in a nice, succinct fashion. All we have to do is put in the person's name. So let's say I'm inviting John Smith from Smith Co. and the email address. If you'd like to test this out, my recommendation to you is just put your own address in. So I'm going to put in support@bniconnect.com so that the email comes to me so I can show you what it looks like. Now, the personal message is going to be the first paragraph of this custom email that we're sending out. So it's going to take it and it's going to say, Dear John. It's going to email it to support@bniconnect.com, and it's going to put my personal message in as the first paragraph. Now, a lot of times I will use this as really my second invitation as opposed to my first invitation. And just sending this out to somebody that's not expecting it, I don't know if that's really going to be effective. Most people will just say, oh, that's just some spam, and they'll delete it. However, if this is an invitation you're sending after somebody is expecting it, then they'll pay attention to it. So a lot of times I'll be, let's say, at a networking event or something like that. Maybe I'll be at a chamber business after hours or First Friday coffee or network at noon or something. And I'll meet somebody that I think would be a good fit for my chapter. So I'll kind of say to them, hey, how'd you like to, come and meet my referral partners at my BNI meeting? And they say, oh yeah, sure, that'll be great. Love to come to that meeting. So, okay, cool. I'll send you an invitation. So I'll go in and I'll send this, and a lot of times my personal message will be something like, it was great meeting you at the, let's say, networking event. I would love to introduce to my referral team. All right. Now I'm going to click send. It's going to take this information, insert it into that custom template, and send it out immediately. And I have already received this in my email, and here it is. I just got that now at 3:10 p.m., so it does go out immediately. The first thing you'll notice, it has a nice BNI graphic in there, so it's a nice professional image there. It then puts in, Dear John, it was great meeting you at the networking event. So it puts my words in as the first paragraph. It then puts the details of your chapter. So here we are, you're cordially invited to the BNI Burr chapter. You'll notice that I have the BNI Burr chapter selected here. By the way, if you are a director consultant on the call with us today, You can send an invitation out to any of the chapters that you support. You just need to make sure that you choose the other chapter from the drop-down list. If you are a chapter member, then the only option will be to send one for your own chapter. But the nice thing is it puts in the address information as well. So I know where my chapter meets because I drive there every single week. However, I don't actually know what the address is. I know it's on Belmont Avenue in Wakefield, but I don't know, what the number is. I could kind of tell somebody how to get there, but with GPS nowadays, everybody likes to, put that into their phone. Well, here they can have the information directly. It also puts in the day and time of the meeting. It briefly describes what BNI is all about, that we're a business professional networking organization. It lets them know that the BNI Burr chapter may be looking for somebody in their profession, and to please RSVP with you. Now, this did say that it comes from BNI notifications, but it will go back to my personal address. If I hit reply, it will go back to support@bniconnect.com, which is the address that I have in BNI Connect. And that's the visitor invitation. Very simple, very straightforward. There's not much else to the invitation. It was designed just as a way to get a quick invitation out there. There's no tracking mechanism. There's no open rates. There's no sent items. There's no reporting or anything like that. It is just a means to get a quick and simple email out there to visitors. All right, so that's the invitation portion of it. The second step of the process, now they say, you know what, I would love to come to a meeting. Okay, so what do we do next? The next step in this process is to pre-register them. And this is the step that is fairly new to BNI Connect, is that a lot of times we'd invite somebody to a meeting. Hey, how'd you like to come to my meeting? Sure. Come to the meeting. When is it? Well, it's my chapter meeting is Thursday morning at 7 a.m. Oh, 7 a.m. you say? All right, sure. I'll be there. And then all of a sudden, Thursday comes up and the alarm goes off at, oh God, 30, and they say, you know what? I think I'm going to sleep in this time. It's just another networking event. They're not really going to miss me. There's going to be 100 people there. They won't even notice that I'm gone. So these casual invitations end up with people not showing up to the meeting. And part of that is because of the lower expectation that they should be showing up to the meeting. What pre-registering the visitor does in a very positive way is to set that expectation that this is more than just a networking event. This is a professional meeting that you have now RSVP'd to. So it shares with them that they should be showing up. So it immediately sends them a registration email saying, you are now registered to visit this meeting. Please plan on being there for the entire 90 minutes. Please bring plenty of business cards. All right, and then 2 days before the chapter meeting, it also reminds them, hey, by the way, just a reminder, you signed up for this meeting. Please make sure that you show up. What this does is it virtually eliminates the no-call, no-show visitors, the ones that just decide at the last minute not to show up, again, because of this expectation. The other thing that registering visitors does is it notifies the chapter leadership that somebody's going to be coming to the meeting. So as soon as somebody registers, the president, the vice president, the secretary treasurer, all of the visitor hosts and the director consultant get a confirmation, a notice saying, John Smith is going to be visiting your chapter this coming week. Let's see how this process works. All right, so going back to BNI Connect now, there's 2 ways to pre-register a visitor. You can pre-register a visitor on the inside of BNI Connect. So this is the member portal once we're logged into the system, and we're already under the operations menu, and one of the very first things here is manage visitors. Now there's 2 different types of visitors. There's the visitors that have come to the meeting, so people that you're looking to follow up with, and then there's the people that haven't yet showed up to a meeting, so the prospective visitors. Now the option that we're looking for here is that we want to register a prospective visitor before a meeting. We want to register somebody before a meeting. And once I click on this, it's a very simple form that we need to fill out. So it's really just Yep, fill in the blanks here, and the blanks that have little stars next to them are the ones that are absolutely needed. So let's say we're going to register somebody. There's somebody that's auctioning real estate. When I go to choose the visit date, you'll notice that only future dates are available. And we can put in the person's name. So this is going to be Albert Auction from Auction Auto. All right, scrolling down, we can put in any of the details. One Engine Way in Carville, Antarctica. Phone number, email address. Now, email address, again, is mandatory because part of this whole thing is that it is sending out all of those notifications. So I'm going to go ahead and put in support@bniconnect.com so that I can show you in a second the registration message. And here we go. So I already have this message. So let's say Albert here. Albert, you are confirmed to visit the BNI Burr chapter. Please plan on being there for 90 minutes with some extra time to network. We also want to make sure to bring plenty of business cards. Here's the address and all the details. And again, they will get a notice 2 days before. Now, I also happen to be on the leadership team of the Burr chapter, and I got a notification here saying, hey, by the way, Albert Auction is confirmed to visit the BNI Burr chapter. Please be prepared to welcome him. And remember that visitors can become members. Oh, if you want to get in touch with him, here's his email address and here's his phone number. Again, all of this communication helps to both have the visitor show up and also for the chapter to be prepared for the visitor. Now, I did mention there is another way that visitors can register. There's two ways, one on the inside of BNI Connect, that's where we're logged in. There's also the public websites that allow for a visitor registration. So if I click up here, regional website, that will take me to my regional website. So I'm actually going to go to Antarctica though. So if I go to Antarctic Referrals, antarcticreferrals.com. This is the regional website for BNI Antarctica. And if I go and I look at the chapters in Antarctica, I can see all the chapters. We have the Chili Hillbillies and the Frozen Assets and the Polar Bear Club and Shiver Me Shillings, but we're going to go to the BNI Burr chapter. And here we can see all of the members and decide if we want to visit. If we wanted to visit the chapter, we can click on Visit this chapter. And this is just going to pull up pretty much the same exact form that I filled out as a member on the inside of BNI Connect. The only difference between that form on the inside and this form on the outside is that you do need to fill out a CAPTCHA code. And that's just to make sure that there aren't these robots out there that are randomly registering people for chapters around the world, and it's a real human that's doing this interaction. There's also a link on the chapter website. So if I go to the BNI Burr chapter website here, there is a link on here for visiting the chapter that has the same form on it. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for visitors to be able to register themselves, but also for members to be able to register their visitors ahead of time. Now, one of the great things about this also is that it does help with the preparation. So if I go to the reports now, there is a report that members of the chapter and the leadership team of the chapter can access that shows all of the visitors that have registered for that upcoming meeting. And if I scroll down here, I have a visitor registration report. And this will by default show me the next week's worth of time, which should include your next meeting. And here I can see Albert Auction is registered for this upcoming meeting, and I can also see who invited the person. Now that's great. Now think about a visitor's day when you have a bunch of people registering. This is extremely helpful for visitors' days as well, where you can see the whole list of people that might be registered for this upcoming meeting. There's a bunch of things you can do with that report as well, because it does allow you to, as a leadership team or as visitor hosts, be prepared for that incoming visitor, both in the ability to welcome the visitor ahead of time, so you can call up the visitor and say, hey, by the way, I noticed that you auction automobiles. That's awesome. We have a mechanic in our chapter who works for Midas who would be a great referral source for you. I would love to introduce the two of you. Can't wait to see you at the meeting. It can also be used for things like having a name badge already filled out for that visitor so that they feel welcome the minute they walk in the room. All these things are possible when the visitors are pre-registered for the meeting. So now we look at after the meeting. So after the meeting, what happens? Well, we want to make sure that we follow up with the visitors. Now, if you've ever been a visitor host before, one of the really difficult things about being a visitor, especially on something like a visitor's day, is you have to take that visitor sign-in sheet and go back to your computer and enter in all of those visitors. Now, you still can do that in BNI Connect. You can still register all your visitors. We highly recommend that you do, so that you can follow up with visitors later. You're essentially building your CRM, your visitor database for your chapter. However, when visitors are pre-registered, all the visitor host has to do is say, hey, I've got this one on the list. Yes, they attended, and they check that off. Now, the way we do this, oops, let me go back here. So the way we do this is we do have to go back to operations. All right, so if we go back to operations, you'll notice that we have the manage visitors option again. And what we always want to do is we want to go in and we can look at our registered visitor database. So we can go to manage registered visitors and mark attendance. Now, as a visitor host, I always recommend you go here first, because you can search for all of the registered visitors. So I can see the entire list of pre-registered visitors. I can see John Smith registers for this chapter a lot up in Antarctica. And with those, and let's say he doesn't show up to the meeting, if we'd like to, we can go ahead and delete that record out of the registered visitor database. Now, let's say that John here, John Lands from Johnny's Landscaping, he couldn't make it to the meeting. So he called up and said, you know what? I can't make it tomorrow. Do you mind if I reschedule for next week? Absolutely, you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and click the edit button here. And what I can do is just change the date of the visit. So let's say he'd like to re-register for next week's meeting. I can double check any of these details here and click submit. And it will re-register Johnny here for the meeting next week, along with Albert Auction. As soon as I do that, John here did get a new registration message, and they will get a new reminder next week. The other thing we can do is, once those meetings have happened and John Smith does show up to the meeting, rather than having to type all of John's details again, we just have an option here to say, yes, this visitor did attend the meeting. Once I check that off, another option becomes available. Do I want to add this person to the POMS report? There are some reasons why you may not want to add them to the POMS report. If that is John's second, third, fourth, fifth visit, you probably don't want to add them to the POMS report, because at that point, you're actually lowering your conversion ratio if you're involved with chapter traffic lights or things like that. You also may not want to do that if they are ineligible. So if this is a member visiting from another chapter, another region, you might not want to necessarily give credit in the POMS report to the person that invited them. I do have to verify who invited them. And then at the bottom, I can also choose whether or not to send the follow-up email. Now, most of the time, we are going to want to send that follow-up email. However, there might be times when you don't. If again, second, third, fourth visit, or in this case, I'm catching up on some data entry that was a couple of months old, at which point it may be a little embarrassing to send, oh, thanks for visiting recently, but it was 2 months ago. But they also do get an email saying, hey, thanks for visiting, and it gives them some more information. All right, so that for the most part is the visitor process. Once you do that, you also have some visitor reports available. So if I go to the chapter reports, I can always go in and review my chapter visitors. And this is awesome because you can go and re-invite people back. So I can look at, let's say that we're going to be doing the Burr chapter. We're going to be doing a winter ball in December. And we would like to re-invite everybody that's been a visitor this year. I can go to this chapter visitor report. I can export it. I could just grab all the email addresses, whatever I'd like to do, and I can re-invite all of these people back to the meeting or to our Winter Wonderland event. Now, one of the things about this is, this is all great in theory, but does this system actually work when it comes to visitors? So I'd like to just share with you a quick example. I was on the leadership team of my chapter a couple of terms ago. So it's not this term, it wasn't last term, it was the term before, and I was the president of my chapter. I'm like, you know what? I really want to use BNI Connect to invite these visitors and get them to show up and everything. And, so we were having a visitors day. And we had sent out the letters and all the regular Visitors Day stuff, but this thing I wanted to add to it was to make sure that all the members registered their visitors, because I really do believe that that will help them to show up to the meeting. So I go around the meeting the week before our Visitors Day, and I was like, hey, how many people do you have coming to the meeting? And we go around the room, and they're like, oh, I have 2 visitors, I have 1 visitor, I have 3 visitors, I have 4 visitors, I don't have any visitors, I have 1 visitor. And by the time we went around the room, and we have 50 members of the chapter, we're like, oh my goodness, there's going to be like 150 people here. Well, I need to let the venue know so that they have enough coffee and breakfast and chairs and tables and everything. So like, when I looked in BNI Connect that night, like, I don't think there's 150 people coming. When I looked, there was actually only 6 people registered. So I was starting to freak out a little bit. I was like, they say they're bringing 150 people, but there's really only 6. I'll tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send out a quick email. We have 6 days to our Visitors Day. We only have 6 people registered. Here's a link to please go ahead and register your visitors. So as soon as I sent that out, the very next day we had 21 visitors registered for the meeting. Now I said, hey, that worked pretty well. So I sent that email out, very simple email, and you'll notice I included the report at the bottom that I just copied and pasted from BNI Connect into my email. I sent that out, and 4 days we had 26, then 3 days we had 34 visitors, 2 days we had 39 visitors. The day before, 13 hours before our Visitors Day, we had 45 registered visitors. Now, how many of those visitors do you think showed up to the meeting? Now, based on past Visitors Days, about 50%, maybe, if you're lucky, actually show up that day. We had 42 of those 45 visitors showed up. The 3 that didn't show up called and apologized ahead of time. They asked if they could please reschedule for a future meeting. We ended up with 6 applications, and we had 3 more people. We ended up with 8 new members due to that Visitors Day. Now, if it works, why not do it again? So new leadership team came on, and they didn't really follow the process. We ended up with 8 visitors on the next Visitors Day, no applications. It kind of fizzled. So they were going to be doing another Visitors Day toward the end of the term. This was back in September, a couple of months ago. Said, well, you know what? Do you mind if I help out a little bit? I'd just like people to register for this one. So what I did was that week I sent out the emails like I did before. This time we ended up with 25 visitors out of 30 visitors that had registered. And we had 4 applications turned in and another 3 to 5 applications expected. So this process does work. The notifications work. The email reminders, that's a big part of it. All of us are busy. We could all use a reminder when we've committed to something. So that, my friends, is the visitor process in BNI Connect. So what I'd like to do is to basically open this up to any questions that you might have. If you have any questions at all about BNI Connect or the visitor process, I'd invite you to please type those questions in now. Just a reminder, this is being recorded. It is going to be made available on our support site, which is accessible by clicking the question mark in BNI Connect, or you can always go to support.bniconnect.com. You'll also find all of our videos, including short educational moments and other videos, up at youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. Again, youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. I'd also love it if you gave us a like on Facebook, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. Now, we have a couple more webinars that are coming up this month. The next couple of webinars are really more for leadership teams and other positions. We're going to be doing a chapter goals. We're going to be doing leadership team tools and reports and some chapter web pages, all coming up next week. So a good referral for me is to please let your leadership teams, let your other chapter members know about these webinars, and please invite them to register and attend these sessions. All right, do we have any questions? The only silly question is the unasked question. All right, John asks, how do we get a copy of the manual? Thank you, John. Absolutely. If you'd like a copy of the manual for the visitor process, all you need to do is send us an email, support@bniconnect.com, support@bniconnect.com. I'll be happy to send you a copy of this in either Word format or in PDF format or both. So thank you so much, John. All right, if there's no additional questions, again, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on this lovely December Thursday afternoon or evening, depending where you are in the world. I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar, and happy connecting.